Oh, baby. Trump's announcement is not going over well with his own followers. I indicated in a previous segment that was the case, and then we looked into it, and indeed, Trump's whole, hey, what if it's bad to just run into communities and rip out anyone that we can with no regard for the consequences for them, the community, their family, if they even are the immigration status that we're saying they are. Let's just grab everybody. And what if that could be bad? What if we just prioritize people who we actually wouldn't want in the United States, who have some sort of criminal record? What if there was some path, some immigration reform that allowed for people maybe be punished a little bit, fine, or something, but have some path to legal status who have been in the country for a super long time and have shown themselves to be productive and valuable and good people? Trump had that revelation. Trump did. And told us that he needs to explain to us why that's his revelation, even though he's the one that we were saying was doing the bad things. Anyways, so he explained that. Who knows if he'll follow through? So I've said in the other segment, let's be careful before we go, oh, good job, he figured it out. Because Stephen Miller might just disregard him. His followers might convince him otherwise. But this was the clip, and then I'll show you Trump supporters' reaction to it.
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have
We're going to have to do something about that. Wait, you're going to have to do something about the thing that you're doing the opposite of. No, you can just stop. That's the solution. It's not some complicated plan that you need to announce and then be proud that you fixed a problem that you caused.
All their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
I guess he's admitting that they haven't been acting with common sense before then, because the only person he's arguing against is himself and his fans. And to be clear, sometimes even liberals will respond, is that because people are being exploited, so aside from the human outcome for the individuals at issue here that we're talking about, for business leaders, farmers, is it that they are enjoying benefiting from a group of people who can more easily be exploited in the workplace because they don't have legal status? That's a concern and a part of why we need the type of reform that I'm talking about, a pathway to legal status for people who have proven themselves to be valuable and law-abiding, aside from being in the country illegally, and who have been present for quite some time. And so configuring that, and then, yes, doing what we can do as it pertains to the border and overstaying visas and stuff to make sure that ideally you only have lawful immigration, because it does allow for more exploitation. And we do want for those individuals, for them to have workplace protections and be subject to the same laws that people with legal status have. So Trump's having all those realizations, apparently, and his fans don't like it. He also posted, our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace in many cases, the criminals allowed into our country. Blah, 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 same thing. He's saying the criminals are taking the jobs. So with that being said, in response to Trump's statement there, his fans under his posts are saying, I live near farms, never seen help wanted sign, never seen anyone in the fields except for giant machines that do all the work. Come on. Be best. Be best. If you're going, like I said in the segment about people rooting on the renaming of things to Confederates, don't fall into the archetype. Let's use the right spell. No, let's use the right grammar. Because never seen anyone in the fields except for giant machines that do all the work, but there was a period in between there. I've seen how it's made where a giant tractor harvests 4 zillion potatoes in 1 second. Well, that's impressive. I'm not buying it. Get them all out of our country, somebody said. And then someone else said, this is a terrible message and should be deleted immediately. This is the fastest way to destroy the MAGA coalition. Very disappointed to hear this message coming from our president. And then somebody else said, wow, this is not what we voted for. That is such bullshit about these businesses have no one to work. Get rid of the illegals so Americans can work. There are real issues and wages not being high enough for a lot of the jobs that we're talking about. And I just referenced one of the things that needs to change so that anyone working does have the pressure. And we want Americans to have the jobs. And those people, I promise, whatever you do with the undocumented immigrants at issue here, I promise that's not the job that you're going to get. You're probably not. We talked about this with manufacturing. There's these huge opening of jobs. Just there being available jobs in certain sectors doesn't necessarily mean that provides the jobs that people are looking for that are making such statements, right? And so the economic policies you need to implement, it's not this to make sure people have well-paying, fair jobs, no matter how many times they fixate on it.
And I was at the bottom of my class. I started doing heroin. I went to the top of my class. Suddenly I could sit still and I could read.
And as we continue forward through this segment, please do remember to click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show. Gavin Newsom responded to this flip-flop saying,
So just moments ago, Donald Trump made a major reversal in his mass deportation policy. Indiscriminately, he's been sending armed agents into farms and fields and ranches all throughout California and increasingly across the country. I was in Oxnard, California yesterday. I met with a 12-year-old boy. Tears pouring down his face. His mom and dad snatched by agents. They were working the fields for over 20 years. He doesn't know where they are. He has no family in the United States. He's here alone, a sixth grader. Donald Trump may not care about him, but he's finally listening to you, calling out these indiscriminate acts of cruelty. Let's keep up the pressure and let's do it peacefully.
There it is. Clearly, he's calling for violence. Is MAGA's reaction? Why are you calling for violence? Okay. Let's. To my point, by the way, they're going to scream, "No, Trump's betraying us." No, you know how he's betraying you is through this. Stephen Ratner says, unless you're in the top 10% of earners, Trump's policies make you poorer. The big, beautiful bill and Trump's tariffs will leave the bottom 90% of Americans with fewer resources. You see it, visualize there. Stop this madness. Stop voting against yourself. I know you want me to cry so badly. I know you want liberals to suffer so badly. But if you're shooting me, but you're doing it through yourself, like pointing the gun through your stomach and then it hits me, that's a really good image. Picture it. I'm standing behind you, minding my own beeswax, okay? And you are pointing the gun through your own stomach and then shooting it. And you're hurting yourself is the point. Does it make sense? So don't do that. If you're going to shoot me, just shoot me. But don't do it through yourself. Don't shoot me, to be clear. But that's what you guys have to stop. I promise. This means more in your life than if Debbie Trans is in the bathroom next to you. If Trans Jane Doe is in the bathroom next to you. I promise it does. Share your thoughts in the comments.